Have you ever tried to play a game in reverse? No, not mirror mode. Mario, turn the bitty buggy around, and now drive the course backwards. If you were to do this in most games, you realize you don't get very far. Most courses in video games are not meant to accommodate playing in reverse. Often you are directly blocked by a one-way section, or maybe you can reversal, but the camera angle is fixed in such a way you can't see where you're going. Super Mario Bros. Doesn't even allow you to go backwards at all. And I think that's a darn shame. Alterations like mirror mode can provide replayability and extra value, but it's just a cheap trick. You have to learn the new directional movements, but once you do that, all other inputs are exactly the same. You're not really doing anything new. It's just a curveball to keep you from sleepwalking through your muscle memory. I do think Mario Kart Online does it best, wherein you don't know ahead of time whether the course will be mirrored or not, meaning you have to be prepared to run the course flipped in both ways. To reverse, however, rewrites the rules completely. It might sound like the same thing at first. Say you have a high ledge, a low ledge, and a Koopa in between. To get across this gap, you need to jump while avoiding the Koopa. Mirror that, and you do the same thing. But now, reverse it. Say you start on the lower ledge. The target ledge is too high now, and the only way to ascend is to not simply dodge the Koopa, but bounce atop its head. That's cool, but the kicker is, we didn't change the level design at all, right? Falling down Fog Canyon in Hollow Knight is a much different experience from climbing up it. Going down, you employ gravity for most of the work, but going up, that same force is against you now. But either way, it's the same exact Fog Canyon. Metroidvanias are really poppin' in this regard, since the open exploration nature of the genre lends players to seeing rooms from various angles. Still, it's not the most interesting thing to reverse a stage, but I find it much more interesting than flipping a directional input and hoping my brain malfunctions enough that I can call it compelling gameplay. Yeah, that's right, villager, there's only room for one bitty buggy in this town! So why don't we see this more often? Well, it's not as easy to implement as one might think. For 3D games, accommodating a reversal may not be a simple switch. Think about a level carved into a cliffside. Flip the camera around and, well, now you can't see anything. Maybe there's missing geometry on the other side. You can see the trees in Pianta Village from Pina Park, and your mind intuits that the rest of the village is behind the hill, out of view. However, move the camera over there, and the whole village is missing. Why bother to model something that will never be seen in normal gameplay? Crash Bandicoot cut a lot of corners just to be able to render in the first place. I'm not sure you could turn the camera around if you wanted to. 2D games fare a little easier since bad camera angles are pretty much non-existent. But there's another issue. How do you get a player to reverse a level in the first place? Metroidvanias get away with it because the cat and mouse of power-ups and progression pieces necessitates backtracking from a current dead end. But imagine for a moment that the climbing section of Fog Canyon was pawned off as a whole new location, like Dense Ravine, and maybe had a slightly different color palette. That wouldn't fool you for 1 second. So developers have to either give you an excuse to backtrack in a level, or frame the reversal in such a way that the player doesn't feel ripped off. Frogger in this level here wants to get to this green froglet, but can't because this platform isn't moving. Well, you could put the button that activates this platform halfway across the level, so you have to backtrack after switching it on. You can also have players carry something, but if they lose the object, players can feel a little cheated, and a retry isn't always possible if the object doesn't respawn. To give the reversal a more welcome reception, you can make such a level optional, or part of bonus areas after the credits, so you don't lose players still deciding if they even like the game or not, while those who beat the final boss and really enjoyed it are just happy to have more game to play at all. And it's not like this has to be a cheap rehash. If you move around some enemies and obstacles, the reversal can feel like a completely different experience. But even with just the same old, playing a level in reverse can contort the original's identity in strange and compelling ways, when it works. You could play any old level, get to the end, turn around, and head back towards the start location. but again, a lot of levels in games aren't designed for that. I don't want to start playing levels backwards randomly and just say if I like it or not. If we're gonna evaluate this idea, we need a way to measure the viability, and frankly, the fun, of the whole thing. That's where Donkey Kong comes in. I had been looking for a challenge that wouldn't prove as taxing or perfectionist as the minimum banana challenge, and I realized that Donkey Kong Country has a perfect way to stress test our reversal idea. No, not mirror mode. Would you blot that idea out of your mind? Every stage in a Donkey Kong Country game has 4 floating Kong letters to collect. These letters started out as a bonus challenge for an extra life, and in later games became a way to unlock secret areas. Unlike puzzle pieces and bonus rooms, Kong letters are placed relatively on path, and they always appear in order: K, O, N, G. This is just the kind of collectible we want. We can see if a stage plays well in reverse if we can grab the G first, followed by the N, then O, and finally the K. This spells out GNOK, which is not a real word, but I'll be saying it a lot in this video. Okay, so we have our goal, let's go over the rules. If the level goes well, the rules are simple. Grab the Kong letters in reverse order, and then finish the level with each letter still in our inventory. But we need backup rules because, spoilers, the game will not take well to us trying to backtrack every jungle, ruin, and volcano of DK Isle. If we can't get every letter in reverse order, then do so for only the largest unbroken string we can. So for example, if we can only grab G, N, O, or GNO, we will not grab the K at all. If we get a situation where we can grab O, K, and G, N, just not all 4 together, we play through the level twice and grab only OK on one run and only GN on a return attempt. Finally, if the course has no way to string any letters in reverse, we will at least try to dodge the first 3 letters and grab just the G. Other than that, every single strategy is fair game. And before we start, a word on why we're kicking off with Donkey Kong Country Returns. I have a soft spot for this game, and I've wanted to make a video on it for a while. I figure with the recent re-release in HD, now would be a good time to run through this one. However, as I've alluded to, the minimum banana challenge is kind of agonizing for returns, and I wanted to try a challenge with less choke points that would ideally run under 30 minutes. That's a cute idea, 30 minutes. Self, you need to buckle the heck up. But I also need to talk about how this game has been released 3 times now, and they still haven't fixed the World 5 map yet. Do you see this nonsense? Do you see it? It's a couple of totems, what do you mean? Alright, look at these totems in the background here. See the arrow pointing? Got it? Take a guess at which of these levels they show up in. Ah! Every other world map doohickey is 100% accurate to its associated level. Fool me once, twice, but 3 times? I paid $60 for this! Actually, I had GameStop credit, so I paid like 20. So I have a theory on this. The level that is here, Springy Spores, is accurate to these red mushrooms that dot the landscape. You may notice that there's a curious blank space, enough to fit another level. And if you move Springy Spores here, it would still be in character. So I think Tippin' Totems, you know, the level actually with totem poles, originally was placed near the totem doohickey, but when finalizing the layout, we had a last-second reshuffle. And because technically there's still mushrooms near Springy Spores, no one caught or cared to fix this world map blunder. Deadlines, stress, I understand and give Retro Studios a pass. But third release? This should be fixed by now. Okay, Donkey Kong, break out as much potassium as you want for this challenge. It's time to GNOK. As one might expect from the first level, jungle hijinks is pretty straightforward. However, we get a worrying taste for what will be dished out as the run progresses. There's a section of the level in the background that we enter using a barrel cannon. This transaction is one way. In fact, whenever we change 2D planes and returns, there's no way to, return via the same route. Thankfully in 1-1, another barrel will bring us back to the foreground, and we can backtrack with a simple roll into mid-air jump. And those self-destructing skull and crossbones barrel cannons will respawn to make sure we don't get soft-locked. That's surprising, but convenient, so I'll take it. Thus, we actually need to trek this section 3 separate times. Once to get to the end of the level for the G, twice to grab the N, and a third time after we cross the gap again to go and grab O, and finally K. Other than being a bit repetitive, this is a perfect introduction to our challenge. GNOK achieved! King of Kling is a very lengthy level, with the G right at the very end and the K at the very beginning. Overall, a straight shooter this one, but we can begin to make out the trends that will repeat along this journey. For one thing, every enemy in the game respawns when you traverse far enough away from it, making little reason to either wipe the local wildlife out or tiptoe around and keep DK's big, meaty claws away from it. Smash away, DK. They'll be back. They always will. However, DK barrels are a little different. These important items will refill your health and also retrieve Diddy Kong. Diddy gives us more airtime using his jetpack, an infinite roll move, and a large health pool. Basically, we always want Diddy Kong if possible. Now, if we already have Diddy but are down 1 health, we can use the DK barrel to recover. But the DK barrel only respawns after a lost life, meaning we may want to strategically leave barrels for later. A quick example. Here's King of Kling, and here are all the DK barrels. In order to GNOK, we need to get all the way to the end and grab the G, go all the way back while grabbing N, O, and K, and then head all the way forward again to finish the level. If you splinter open every DK barrel the first stretch, you still have 2 more lengths with 0 barrels. So if you have full health, or even 1 or 2 health missing, leave the barrel be so you can grab it on the return trip. You do not want to get tiki-tacked on the very last leg. Try to nudge the difficulty toward the beginning. But regardless, this level is none too bad. Just don't forget the N in the corner like I did. And that's another GNOK. Treetop Bop is one of my least favorite levels in the whole game, and one of my least favorite in this challenge too. Right at the beginning of the level, we pass the K and get launched high sky atop the canopy of the jungle. We are still on the same 2D plane after this shot, but it is still one way. We could totally fall back down there, but the game refuses to comply. Thus, we are cheated out of an otherwise doable K, and are stuck with a measly GNOK. Bing, bang, boom. Another note, if you're trying to conserve DK barrels, you can also opt to take one with you and hold on to it for as long as possible. Though I chose to throw it away at this fiery tiki for 3 1-up balloons. Such a weird secret, like was I really supposed to know that this tiki was sparkling when it's already on fire? The jellyfish makes sense, but this one I don't know. Up next is Sunset Shore, and it's a good level for when you need a break. The sunset is beautiful, and even with this challenge, the stage is short and easy. 1, 2, 3, 4, GNOK. Crazy Cart, as named, is the first of our minecart levels. Much like the minimum banana challenge, any on-rails sections, literal or otherwise, spell certain doom for our run, as there is simply no way to go backwards and grab our missing letters. The best we can do is easily skip the optional jumps and only grab the G near the end. As we pop onto the beach with pop and planks, the tide of difficulty starts to roll in. These croon and cranes were not considered for reverse traversal, and the jumps are a bit tough. Destroying these boxes ahead of time might help, but now is good a time as ever to start practicing your enemy bounces and roll into mid-air jumps. These strategies are not just helpful in general, but essential as we get to the later levels in this challenge. This is a fun level to jump around and a relatively forgiving one to learn. There's one part when we drop down on a slowly sinking barrel platform, and we can actually jump off the platform early and reach solid ground by bouncing off the tiki buzz here. Sadly, this section is also entirely one way, splitting the level in two, and separating us from an otherwise good completion. As our first split, we need to beat this level twice, both with GN and OK. Sloppy Sands is also not possible to complete. The G is hiding inside this bulwark tower, which cannot be exited after entry. Instead, grab the N here, the O here, and break this box to reveal a hidden barrel to K Island. There's not much to note in this level, but we do learn some trivia about the flying squids from traveling leftward. These creatures normally disappear after colliding with an object, but if they float long enough without colliding into anything, the game just poofs them out of existence anyway. That said, another simple level, our first NOK. Peaceful Pier is our first rocket barrel level, which much like our minecart stages, launches off rightward without a chance to go left. Easily dodge the first 3 letters, and grab the G. Blowhole Bound is also analogous to On Rails, as the whale only swims to the right. That's another single G. Finally, Cannon Cluster returns to form with another winner. Maybe we should also go for 0 puzzle pieces, you know, for fun. Wait, what the heck? Where did that one come from? Whatever. There's nothing too altered about grabbing the letters in reverse in this course, but you will have to undergo a lot of cannon fire. One trick is to jump between blasts, as only the impact causes damage. Those explosion graphics are harmless. The K is the most dangerous, but you've been practicing those bounces, right? And there we go, another GNOK. Maybe you're wondering by now, when is this gonna get interesting? Now, Stormy Shore is the level I originally envisioned for this challenge, as I knew it would be fully reversible, even with the colossal Squidicus impeding our passage. No, I do not know why they keep naming octopuses after squids. As scary as Squidicus is, it patiently waits for us to hop between its tentacles. Ah shoot, why did I open this chest? I'm not doing very good avoiding puzzle pieces. 2-5 is the first level requiring a precise letter dodge, as the K actually clogs up the passage a bit. After that though, yeah, the challenge is still pretty basic, but the difficulty ramp up in the base game finally started costing me some lives. I thought the boat debris Squidward destroys would prove interesting for our trial, but they actually respawn. Huh, why did they program this? Whatever the case may be, another simple but more challenging GNOK. Then there's Titled Terror. As the naming suggests, this level is oppressive. You are constantly being barraged by an infinite swell of harrowing waves that take out absolutely everything in their path. Our only repose is the occasional rock barrier to hide behind, sometimes so short that we need to duck behind. Don't you dare, don't you dare! If I could move from this lowly spot! Yeah, we've got these yellow crabs posted everywhere, and wow, are they bloodthirsty. They live here, they should know better, but no, at risk of death, we gotta pinch Donkey Kong for some reason. It's not cute. Whatever, bye, see ya. I really like this part where the back two get launched, and the survivor just falls. What a nerd. I can joke all I want, but these crabs are actually a problem. Everything respawns, so we have to deal with the same crabs upwards of 3 times. We can tank this hit once, but tank it again and Diddy's gone. And this level brings out our first real wrinkle. These brittle rock walls will only protect us from a wave 1 time. They do not respawn. This creates a particularly egregious gap near the end of the level, with only short walls and crabs to keep us company. Oh, and did I mention the wave's instant KO? There's also the strategic choice of do I take Diddy here or not, which I went with no for an extra hit point. All that said, the letters are pretty standard, though the K is the most interesting. Some crabs actually dig out of the ground to attack, and the trigger is normally a look ahead. But in reverse, the timing is just so to snipe ya, and these exact snipers are needed to bounce up and grab the K. If you can manage that, and traversing the deadliest section of the level 3 whole times, you net the hardest GNOK thus far. This is when I knew we had ourselves a video. But we barely get any time to dry off in the sun of success. This rounds out World 2, and World 3 starts off with Wonky Waterway. The N in this level floats over a bunch of collapsible platforms. As we just saw, collapsible platforms are the exception that don't respawn for some reason, making it seemingly impossible to reverse course after grabbing the G, or even just the N. But we have one more trick. It's time to discuss the elephant in the room. This monstrosity. The HD re-release inherits all the enhancements from the 3DS version. The extra endgame content is great, but it also brings over Modern Mode. Modern Mode makes the game easier by granting Donkey and Diddy an extra heart each, for a total of 6 whole hit points. And it's just too much, I feel. You can tank everything, you don't even have to try, at least in the first several worlds. And why is it called modern? What's modern about making the game easier? Is this social commentary? But fine, I'm a classic gamer, why not just use classic mode? Well, someone decided that certain items in the shop would be exclusive to modern mode. And one of those items is a green balloon that allows us to bridge otherwise impossible gaps. That would be very useful in our reverse run. And you can only select the mode at the beginning of the game. Which means my 900 plus coins get to rot in classic mode while I start a brand new file that has to replay the whole game while grinding out coins for those stupid balloons. And you might think that's bad enough, but I finally crawl all the way back to Wonky Waterway just for the green balloons to not work. Because to prevent cheating, I guess, which you're already playing in baby mode, so why does that matter? The screen doesn't readjust while the green floater is active, and the game floats you back in bounds to boot. And I'm not done, because if you quit the level, you lose every single green balloon, even though the game clearly states that unused items will be kept. What tiki tong is that load of banana minecarts? And World 3 just gets worse. One-way sections in Button Bash, one-way sections in Mast Blast. Damp Dungeon, which is so simple it had to be a shoo-in for this challenge, has multiple 2D plane shifts, making only a G possible. And that's not to mention World 4, which is entirely on rails, the entire time, making only G possible on every single stage. Frankly, World 4, you are a disappointment in every regard. Least amount of levels, no traditional platforming in one of my favorite environments. Caves deserve better. Rock and stone. I'm done. How about instead we do a don't collect any Kong letters challenge? That will probably work better. Wait, what? What is this? You can't be serious. There's no way to get past this without grabbing the K? I can't even green balloon because there's a stupid safety barrel just off screen. What is going on? Why did I think this was going to be a good idea? Yeah, we skipped canopy cannons earlier so I could set up for this bit. That said, I was genuinely distraught when I found out it was impossible to even skip just the K using the green balloons, making this not only the first complete failure in the run, but also the green balloons are completely worthless at this point. I put all that effort, all that coin collecting treasure hunting, for nothing. I seriously considered canceling the entire video at this point, since it's not much fun or interesting if only the bland basic bread levels in the first 2 worlds actually have GNOK. Thankfully though, I loaded up my 101% file and started bouncing around the map instead of playing strictly in order. Turns out Worlds 5, 7, and 8 all have amazing levels in this challenge. So here's what we're going to do. If a level has nothing good going on, I'll briefly mention the score and continue. If the stage can be maxed out in classic mode, we'll dive into it. And if the score can be improved in modern mode, I will skip it completely and tackle each one in the last section. And yeah, believe it or not, we actually get some use out of those green balloons. Eventually. By the way, I do actually like the levels in World 4. I just think gimmick stages are best dispersed evenly. Something for another video, we've had enough tangents already. So yes, Masked Blast and Damp Dungeon are both G only. Pimashi from editing here, Damp Dungeon is actually okay, and we can use a damage boost to dodge the G. Itty Bitty Biters, however, is the one place in the ruins that actually has a GNOK. This is a lengthy level, so GNOK is a good test of skill, but none of the letters stand out in particular. Though, these stack attacks are slightly more tricky to handle in reverse. World 4 truly is completely hopeless. I can at least confirm that only the G is grabbable in every single stage, but let's move on to World 5, so I can finally show you what this challenge really dishes out. It is here, halfway through Donkey Kong Country Returns, that I finally get to talk about cycles. Vine Valley has DK swinging vine to tongue. Yeah, this thing's a real jump scare the first time. Naturally, the developers want the swinging action to be fluid, so the vines are positioned in alignment. You can have two vines finish their arc at the same time, but you can also have the starting vine reach the end first. So when you jump forward, the next vine swings into DK. Reverse that, and now your starting vine is reaching the end of the arc as the next vine is already flying away. This makes Vine Valley actually a bit trickier on the rewind. Plus, we need to carefully dodge K and N on the way forward. Wow, 2-letter dodges? That's unheard of. Combined with the length of this level, you've got a pretty interesting GNOK this stage, but totally doable. But nothing could compare me for the next course, Clingy Swingy. The level starts out with the swinging wedge that throws us right into the jaws of the K. We can jump on top of the wedge, but it's slippery and the object swings so fast that it pushes us off. The key for these swings is to land on the right side, such that the momentum pushes the platform into us, keeping us aloft. However, we have a trick for this first obstacle. We can actually jetpack over to the log holding the platform up, making the jump more reliable and less finicky. From here until the G, the level plays pretty standard, though it's long and best to leave some DK barrels for the return trip. Once we have the G though, the struggle begins. For one, these snake creatures are moving against the wind, making it difficult to climb underneath without taking a hit. However, a well-timed roll jump can get us over, though I found it was easier to take out the snake on the way right, as the G is close enough that it doesn't respawn. The slow bats start bunching up, which is interesting, but here's the real problem. Several platforms, such as the earlier one, only swing after grabbing them. If you die at any point, you respawn at the furthest checkpoint, which is non-negotiable since checkpoints activate automatically. Death resets the state of the moving platforms. With some wacky leaps of faith, I was able to cross most gaps. But this one, right near the beginning, seems walled off for some reason. Maybe I did it wrong, but I picked a solution I knew would work. I have to beat this level without dying once, so the swings never reset. Thank you, Professor Chops. I understand I'm bad at the game, but I'm playing a challenge here. The super guide cannot help one bit. This is not helpful. It's just annoying. Anyway, where was I? Have to beat the level without dying once, yes. That makes this stage the longest bout of endurance in the entire challenge. And just because the platforms are moving doesn't make them easy. This one tends to swing away, so you basically need Diddy, jump on top of the roof, and then get a good enough roll that you actually make it to the other side. Roll jump for this transfer too, and once you reach the K, yeah, now these grabby platforms are misaligned, so you really have to watch out. This stage is a full-fledged struggle, an excellent example of what a reversal can do. It has unique obstacles forward, back, and forward again, all because of the timing of these platforms. And with good skill, we can still manage a full GNOK. There's another GNOK in this world in Springy Spores, but there's not much to talk about with this one. As almost an antithesis to the last one, this stage plays basically the same no matter which direction you're going. And unlike double-digit deaths in the last level, I managed this one on my very first try. There is something wrong with this K, though. It's so shiny for some reason. That's all the GNOKs for now. Flutter Flyaway could have been more engaging, but it has two one-way sections that cut us off from both the K and the G. The No has one interesting jump in reverse, but for some reason there's a safety net under this part, which was actually where my last puzzle piece was hiding. How the heck did they expect you to find this one, like, normally? Long Shot Launch, being another barrel cannon level, is a long shot. It only scores a G. However, I must point out that dodging both the O and the N actually presents a decent test of skill, if only for a moment. Though you can just damage boost the O if you want. Wigglevine Wonders also only has a G possible, with every other letter requiring a conscious dodge. The O in this stage is perhaps only dodgeable with a damage boost. Muncher Marathon is also G only, but there's nothing notable to say about this one, other than that the base level is cool. World 6 is a tough one. There's not a single GNOK in this world, though several come close. The first level, Sticky Situation, cuts us off from the G with a one-way, but the K should have been possible. All we would have to do is climb up this ledge here, and it's barely out of reach. Come on, you reanimated boneheads, just drop down here and let me bounce up there. I decided to leave DK here once while I went off to eat something, and came back to find this. The Scully Rex had errored out and wasn't moving, but also, where was the other one? Did it fall into the sludge? If so, that means we can get up here. Unfortunately, I didn't record this, so we had to redo it. This time I wasn't so lucky, and the time after that as well. Eventually, I came back to find the same screen as before, recorded this time. Okay, let's see what is happening. You've gotta be kidding. They were both there, just perfectly overlapped? What? Well, this level says N-O. No. And I'll just say right now, you can't green balloon out of the sludge, like you can with water. Prehistoric Path is a minecart madness, G. Wadey Way has a million one-way sections, G. So does Tippy Shippy, which actually launches us directly into the G. Thank goodness it's not another letter. And Clifftop Cliff could have been a good one, but the game does not allow us to fall back down the cliffside, G. Precarious Plateau is neat at least. I originally thought just the G was possible again, since the letter comes after a crumbling section. But if we jump carefully, skipping platforms and bouncing on tikis when possible, we leave enough precarious ground to make our way backwards, and then grab the N. Now how do we get forward to the end of the level? Well, these platforms actually respawn. How lucky for us. That gives us an interesting GN. Crumble Canyon has no such luck. We can reverse course after the disaster boulder falls into the muck, but there's no way to climb up this passage to reach the end. Similarly, we can set up some extra platforms to rewind after the O, but the very last jump seems impossible. If we skip the shell platform, then our only option collapses before we can get a high enough jump off. If we use the shell platform, then there is no window back at all. And for whatever reason, in this level in particular, the game individually tracks which platforms have activated even after the checkpoint, and won't respawn them, dashing any hopes of a death reset. We are so close, but after losing lives down to single digits, I gave up. G it is. Thankfully, World 7 saves this dry spell. Well, not Foggy Fumes. It's just a GN for this one, though reversing on this pipe segment makes for an interesting trial. The secret is to wait for 3 tiki saws to pass, and then a small gap allows you to slink under the corridor. Or you could just damage boost, I guess. At the end of the clouded passage, the fans disperse the fog and reveal the path to a bunch of good challenges. Slam and Steel is just a knock, but it's a pretty good one. We've got several cycles again, not much accommodating a reversal. These conveyors are pretty tricky when grabbing the end, but the stars of the show are these pistons, which require you to jetpack with Diddy to dodge one and wait for the other to rise. You gotta do that 4 whole times, and now that we're in World 7, the game is already difficult enough to begin with. A tip that may help is to run past the end here and activate the checkpoint. That way, if you fail the first time, you'll always have the DK barrel here, right when you need it. Also, it's crushing cool you can use this secret area to watch and learn the cycles before attempting. And that's an aluminum wrap for this stage. Just a shame about the missing letter. Gear Getaway is a rocket barrel level, so just the G is possible. The O and N are actually in the way a little bit, so this might be the most interesting rocket barrel level. Alright, here we are, the GNOK trifecta. Triangles are so cool. Cog Jog is an excellent playthrough, showcasing trickier jumps on the return. On the return? Return, you mean? Right after grabbing the G, we have to make a blind jump back to this platform without falling into the arrow barrel. Then this rotating platform floats just out of reach, and I found it easier to actually roll atop it instead. Just after the end, we get another weird jump where a barrel acts as a blocker, followed by a blind drop that looks dangerous, but you just have to trust. We get yet another section with the same kind of thing, including a set of platforms that go completely vertical, and we need to stand atop the end. From the O all the way to the K, and then the end, things standardize out a bit. But overall, this is a good showcase. It is the first level to turn otherwise friendly barrels into an obstacle. I'm surprised this hasn't shown up more, likely because most send you to another 2D plane, which is non-reversible. Switcheroo is a bit more basic than the last stage, but being in the 7th world at least presents a strong difficulty. This is honestly one of my favorite levels in the base game. You have these red and blue platforms that alternate depending on wall buttons that DK can activate. It presents an interesting meld of platforming skill and strategy, figuring out what buttons to press and where. So you're really on for the whole level, even if backward and forward look about the same. You still get some interesting moments, where because you moved backwards, the color the game expected you to have activated is not, and you have to detour to find a button. Music Madness is actually the last GNOK we will achieve in the original mode. Yeah, really, but at least it's a good one. Between the K and the O, there's a broad gap crossed with a barrel cannon. Here we'll find the one and only DK barrel of the stage. You can pick it up and retrieve Diddy, but you will need him to double back the large gap. I find it easier to leave the barrel here. And that's because Music Madness has a couple hammer cycles that are hostile in reverse. After grabbing the G, the first of these is none too bad. Just get airborne as the prior mallet swings down. Grab the N, and the next section is not a problem. Take it slow and steady. But the last mallets are trouble, since little space is offered between slams. It is possible to get past this damageless, which I did once and then immediately lost the heart to a silly fly boy. But anyway, I would expect to take a hit here, meaning you need to do the rest up until the DK barrel damage-free. Grab the O, roll down into the pit to give your midair jump more girth, hover under the barrel, grab the K using the secret barrel, and the rest of the level plays pretty normal, though you won't have a DK barrel to refresh your health. And with that, GNOK has been achieved. 3 demanding levels in a row. This brings us to the last world, smoldering with vexation. Furious Fire is already one of the toughest levels in the game. It has like 5 of these tiki bombers, which is bad enough. And then add on these giant fireball things, and frustration easily bubbles to the surface. There's a single one-way section halfway through, forcing us to play through the level twice to get OK and GN. The O and K are pretty close by each other, so other than a slight detour, OK is pretty OK. It helps to duck under the fireball, which doesn't feel like it should be possible. The problem with GN is the one DK barrel near the checkpoint. This means any death sticks you with either just DK for the first 2/3, or completing the entire level without a single health refill. I chose the former to ideally front-load the difficulty. As stated before, I do not want to lose at the very end. I found 2 choke points in this area, and these have nothing to do with the challenge. Just playing the game normally, you will find these 2 sections to be disastrous. And with DK's 2 hearts, I can only tank 1 hit across 4 attempts. This level consistently sends those giant fireballs leftward, but here, the 2 tikis can still hit you while you're immobilized by ducking. But the next section is worse. We've got a tiki bomber plus fireball here, surrounded by char-chars making nowhere safe, and this tiki tends to ledge guard, while the fireball flies low enough that you can't duck under, and high enough that it still hits the upper ledge. It's dumb. Oh. Well, you know, this would make a lot more sense. This always felt a little too mean. When I finally managed past and grabbed the G in the fireball labyrinth, I made it back only to notice this section is one way? Well, we're in luck. This bonus room actually returns us to the platform above, but only one time, so don't waste it. And if you manage to grab the N and make it through all these obstacles one more time, with every enemy respawned, you get GN. All that work for 2 letters. Hot Rocket and Roasting Rails are just a G, but then we get to another of my favorites. Smoky Peak. I see many folks point this out as one of the most striking levels visually, and while I'm not here to argue, the challenge is pretty gnarly as well. Starting from the last checkpoint, we'll take a quick detour to grab Diddy if needed, then free Rambi and break this mandatory crumble wall. After grabbing the N, we need to dismount Rambi and traverse the return on foot. This involves a skilled roll jump and then a pretty normal section until we reach here. These platforms are usually lowered by breaking an odd node with Rambi, but we don't have that option here. Instead, we must roll jump to the next platform, which sinks, so quickly roll jump to the next one, which, yeah, they all sink. This one requires a bit of finesse, but the tiki will help. And then it looks like a dead end here. Except, yeah, I have no idea, but how about we finish this one in one go so I don't have to worry about it. Skip Rambi to grab the O, but then you can head back and ride the Rhino for the rest of the level. Once you grab the K, every single platform will kindly respawn on the way out, meaning it's the level you know already, you just need to ace it. This grants us a NOK, as there is no way to reverse course after grabbing the G. Overall, not too crazy, but we have several death-defying jumps here that only come out in this challenge, making this genuinely interesting. Bobbing Basalt cuts us off from the K at this one-way sinking pillar, but this stage still gives us a run for our money. We really want Diddy to navigate these basalt platforms. These jumps are kinda ridiculous, and with a near mandatory damage boost on the return trip, our successful run must be near flawless. There is a single DK barrel in the whole stage, so unless you bring Diddy with you and complete the run in one attempt, not very likely. And yeah, there are supposed to be heart items in this game, but I have literally not seen a single one in the volcano this entire go at it. I don't know. Oh, and I guess I should mention we have another letter we need to dodge. The O is a little tricky on the inbound. So again, you can choose when to grab the DK barrel, and this time I opted to take it immediately because of all the tricky jumps. You can hold on to the barrel in case you take an early hit, but you should throw it by the time you reach the G. The flip point is the worst section of the whole stage. The cycle of the crushing basalt is super important here, because yes, you don't want to get squishied, but the narrow gap also tends to be a lava death, instant death. And this cycle does not like to cooperate. It makes sense to roll jump here to save the crumble platform for the rewind, But so often the path is blocked even with the extra waiting room. Again and again it got me. So instead, I ended up doing this weird move where I grabbed the G, jumped up to the second basalt, and then jumped backwards. For whatever reason, that seemed to line up the cycle better. From here, you must make several tricky jumps on a bad cycle. The leftward pillars drift into the lava before their right counterparts, and so it's easier to roll jump and skip over one entirely. Then we reach this lava ball sine wave, which we can skip over most with a spin jump, but more or less seems like a mandatory hit. Then we have to go forwards again to grab the N, one of the trickiest letters in the whole game as it requires small hops. Then at this crumble platform, hover with Diddy as much as you can to improve the odds of a good cycle for dodging these erratic fire rocks. Progress a little further, and just before the O, we have one more unique setup. We have crumbling ledges and bats here. So what we're gonna do is knock out the tikis on the checkpoint platform, back up to this barrel to make sure the bats reset, and then run straight down this section to bounce off the bat to make sure we get a good cycle to jump under the bobbing basalt. Of all the jumps, this is the most important to have Diddy for. He may not be strictly necessary, but I dare not try without him. That's all the unique stuff now. These platforms will respawn for the final leg, but do not underestimate— well shoot, if you made it this far, I think you understand. This level is brutal. Despite just a GNOK, this proves to be one of the objectively best in the challenge, using every signature skill in the book up to this point. Sadly, moving melters is another complete failure. There are a ton of one-way barrel blasts, and the game actually forces us to grab the N. A big ol' letter X for this one. Red Red Rising ain't great, but it comes attached with a particular footnote. This level features aggressive red rising lava, hence the name, and this lava is entirely one way. However, this climbing lava has no rubber banding until we reach the barrel segment near the end. This means if we move real good, we get a grace space where we can drop downward if the lava hasn't reached the spot yet. The K is blocked off and the G is in the one-way barrel ride at the end, but it might be possible to grab the No. I popped out a sacrifice fly and calculated that it takes approximately 45 seconds for the lava to reach the O. Then watching a TAS on YubTub, the N was grabbed roughly 35 seconds into the lava rising. That's a 10-second window to drop down and grab the No. But trying it myself, I got absolutely nowhere close. If this is possible, it may be TAS only. At the very least, not in my DK hut. The game again said no to no, so I grabbed the G and moved on. For the remaining levels we'll go over, my best score was accomplished using the green balloons in modern mode. I was originally going to compare/contrast each level in the different modes, but as this video ballooned in scope, I realized I needed to save space where possible. This brings us back to Wonky Waterway. I originally thought there was no way to grab the N and get back to solid ground, but I was thinking about it wrong. Because the screen doesn't adjust the camera during green flight, we have to simply adjust our position before pulling out the green inflatable. In this stage, that means rolling under this barrel cannon to get DK underneath the crumbling aqueduct. But that's not everything. These falling platforms are weirdos that don't respawn, so not only do we have to grab the N and track back, we also need to save enough platforms for the final pass-through. This means we need more balloons. A lot of balloons. Thankfully, we can take in 9, which is more than enough. So once we reach the aqueduct, roll from the platform to reach the second barrel. Grab the N and use as many balloons as you need to leave at least 2 platforms here. Important note is that you must touch solid ground so DK can inflate another green balloon. Because of our barrel skip, the very first platform is still here for a roll jump, granting just enough distance to reach the ruins with a balloon. Grabbing the O followed by the K is nothing special, and then we get back to the pit. Roll under the barrel cannon again, use a balloon to land on the crumble platform just off screen, and use one final balloon to land on another platform off screen. Once you've reached the barrel cannon, it's level as normal. You've even got another checkpoint, so you don't have to do that all over again. That's 6-ish balloons just for one stage. The others won't need this many, but that makes this one pretty notable, even for just a knock. Button Bash is just a GN, but we do need a green balloon to get back to one of the barrel cannons to grab it. The last ruin level to discuss is Temple Topple, which too looked impossible until I started thinking about it. KO is fairly doable by hopping off Rambi here and grabbing the O, then the sneaky K down here, but this part is one way. However, grabbing the GN is much more confusing. There's a ruinous tower here that Rambi can break through, but then the falling pieces will shatter the remaining platforms, preventing us from returning back. The solution is to simply green balloon to phase through the tower. Though green balloons are pretty limited in scope, they will pass through any piece of geometry when active. From here we need to do a wonky waterway again, and leave enough platforms to get back after grabbing the G. And we pass under the tower again by expending another green balloon. I was a little worried about this section because some platforms are doubles, and I nearly lost every single one on my first return trip. But after grabbing the N, I noticed that the platforms in this level respawn, which, thanks, that saved my run, but I would rather things be consistent. Tippin' Totems has another one-way section that splits the level in two. There's a sleeping totem here that you have to tickle its ear to wake up. For whatever reason, when you get too far away from it, it resets. And even though it clearly has an ear on the other side, you can't wake it up from this end. It looks like the camera isn't far over enough to make a green balloon useful. However, further inspection notes that there's empty space under the totem. Hovering underneath with Diddy moves the camera aside enough to reach the other end with a green balloon. Which makes this the one and only level that the green balloon gives us an otherwise impossible GNOK. This is a pretty good level for the challenge as well. All the totems move rightward, which completely changes the feel of the level in reverse order, which, at this point in the challenge, isn't comparatively difficult, but still worth saying. Oh, here we go, it's this one. Boulder Roller is a long level with a bunch of interesting reverse cycles, and everything looks good for our run until the end. The end itself is fine, but the level has a singular one-way section. That's not a 2D plane switch, or even a large gap. It's a single, flippy panel. Surely this can be passed with a green balloon. So I hauled out there with our mean green stash, and nothing. Again, nothing. Because calling the balloon requires stepping into the void below, the camera would always shuffle too low. Plus these rolling spike rocks were further nudging the camera down with every slam. It's just not gonna happen. I even considered breaking out 2-player for this, but you can't use green balloons in co-op. There was just no way to... Wait, what? We made it! Hold on. So the trick is to jump off this ledge, which keeps us in the same camera zone, i.e. the camera is high up enough. From here, we loft enough height to get into the wall, and from there, we're good. Now we just need to string it all together and... Camera? Camera, please? What the heck is going on? I can't even pick up the DK barrel that's usually here. Does this mean I have to grab all 3 letters? Blind? No. There's no way. There are way too many pitfalls in this chapter. Is there any way to reset the camera? Why is it like this? Wait. If we green balloon the reverse way, will we... That's it. When we flip this platform, the camera switches from A to B. The latter half of this level is not as hole-ridden. If we can grab the G and make it back, then we can finish the rest of the level with a cooperative camera. I'm willing to try that, but of course, still an absolute nightmare. Since we can't see anything, we're stuck relying on audio cues. There's an audio for walking into a wall, there's an audio for taking damage, and the most important item here is the banana. By tracking the sounds from Banana Collection, we can precisely pinpoint our location in the level, since they're everywhere. Here's the lowdown. First off, your load out should drop a couple balloons for some banana potions. There are no audio cues for the boulder rollers, but with some yellow yum we can ignore them basically. However, you can't recover extra hearts, so try to dodge damage in Section A. You have eyes here, no need to waste. Then do what you saw already and green balloon to the lower area. One note, sometimes I fall here, and I think we actually need the spiky boys to shake the camera down once or twice to get this to work. Who would have guessed? We can line up our first roll jump by jumping on screen, land on the danger chute, and jump up to the first 2 bananas. Ideally, we jump up to the next platform and roll across this entire gap. Though I must admit, I kinda bumble through this part, and that's because when we hear the checkpoint noise, there's only one place we can be, and we can walk right up to this wall. From here I know to collect exactly 4 bananas, and then roll jump to reach this chute. You can walk over these divots, but it doesn't always happen. But I know after grabbing the banana bunch and then a regular banana, it's time to roll jump again. This part is a little tricky since I'm not sure where exactly I landed, but as long as I grab some bananas, I walk forward a little bit and then just roll jump. Again, we can tell if I reach the top of this divot by waiting for a banana and then a banana bunch. And finally, jump from the banana bunch and then roll jump to grab the G. I would give you the reverse play, but I couldn't grab it. No matter what, my jump just wouldn't reach. And I know it's possible with just a roll jump. What's going on? Well, for starters, none of the fossil freaks can hit me. Yeah, there are plenty on this approach, but the only things that can damage me are the rollers. And then I managed this. Yep, it seems barrel cannons force the game into a specific camera angle. Now, watch this. It goes all the way back. Slowing the camera down, the G is not visible, but guess who is? If the Scully Rexes and Bonehead Jeds are visible on this pan, but can't hurt DK, then it's a plausible assumption that certain items aren't interactable when off-screen. That would follow for why I couldn't grab the DK barrel. And though I can't confirm, it is potentially the issue with the letter G as well. If so, that would make a full GNOK impossible. Well, I'm gonna beat the level with this weird camera glitch at least, which standalone is a wacky challenge, which I cannot believe I managed to do. Wow. Well, at least we can use green balloons to get no on Crumble Canyon. Wait, what? Why not? What is your problem, game? So many so close, and yet so far away. Handy hazards looked like more of the same. Right where the G is, the camera locks us into place, so we can't go backwards with the balloon. There's also like an invisible wall here, dashing our hopes of at least reaching the barrel cannon. Then, however, this happened. Catch it? For some reason, popping out of a green balloon jailbreaks the camera. This allows us to return to the prior platforms, which we actually want to dodge the arrow barrel. It's a death trap since the other one doesn't respawn. If it wasn't for these electric bars, this would be a soft lock. Time your jumps carefully and start making your reversal. This N was kinda tricky to dodge on the way right, but you're free to grab it now. The O is just a short ways away, and then we get stuck. There's another one-way passage blocked by the camera again, and I checked, a green balloon does not break it. We can jump back into one of the blast barrels, but yeah, there's no way around this one. This section of the level is a bottomless pit, so unless the camera moves, we have no chance of crossing this, especially with another invisible wall, what the heck. Still, using a greenie to break the camera is not something I was expecting, so a GNOK, at least, is pretty impressive. Cheated out of another one, yet again! The volcano world won't be improved with green balloons at all. Green balloons are allowed in these levels, but I have zero idea why. You can't even use them. Much like tar, you can't use balloons to save yourself from lava, which does make logical sense, so I'm down with it, but I did not find one location where the green balloon works, so I'm just a little confused is all. So that's basically it for the challenge. The hidden temple levels in the game do not have Kong letters at all, so there's no way to see how the challenge fares with them. However, there is a stage that is fully reversible from start to finish, and that is Jagged Jewels. Without a one-way section of any kind, we can simulate GNOK by jumping all the way to the orb at the end, playing the full level in reverse, and then running forward to grab the orb again. And thankfully for this one, we also get Diddy. This was gearing up to be the ultimate GNOK-like challenge. The temple levels are the hardest in the game. As bonus content, they are allowed to be extra difficult. So mentally steeling myself for the road ahead, I booted it up and beat it my second try, on classic mode. Yeah, I guess all the practice I had breaking these levels in reverse meant the temple stages aren't all that crazy anymore. Now, this is an oppressive level, I will admit. You can't really cheese anything, and nearly every mistake will be punished. But I just premeditated each section and took it slow and steady. The course isn't too different in reverse either. Most cycles stay exactly the same either direction, other than these couple pop-ups at the end, so I don't think this is all that. That said, while it's not fully reversible, I did want to use those green balloons one last time. Platform Panic is something else. Being the first temple level, you can unlock it right at the start of the game, which is a serious wake-up call for anyone unprepared, probably most people. Unlike Jagged Jewels or other temple levels, if you mess up once, bye-bye. That's because the entire level is built out of crumble platforms. Other than a couple of break spots, every platform in this level has a couple seconds and it's gone. You already know what we're about to do. Pack up your 9 balloons and let's reverse basically all of Platform Panic. Your job is to skip as many platforms as possible, such that when you reach the blast barrel at the end, you turn around and have enough remnants to make it back to the starting platform. This is a cute little way to wrap things up. There's a lot of platforms here, meaning a lot of strategy on which to skip and which to drop. But a word of caution, just getting back to the start is a fun little challenge. Getting to the start and then back to the blast barrel is one heck of a guy. I am not interested. It might be possible, maybe even without any green balloons, but I've had enough torture for now. One piece of advice though. The first couple of platforms in each section will actually respawn. Not all of them for some reason, but some, so take that into account. And good luck. So yeah, this turned out to be kind of insane. A majority of our levels were not winners in the slightest, but the few that came out swinging had all the curveballs. Did I think I would be playing a level essentially blindfolded, only to find out we couldn't get the GNOK anyway? Like, come on, you gotta give me that game. I can safely say I do not recommend this challenge at all. This is one of those wacky ideas you just let the YouTuber take care of, so you don't have to. There's nothing fun about playing the same level 3 times over, especially when most levels play identically each way. Still, the moments of discovering a mechanic completely unique to this horrid way of doing things made it worth it, I think. In retrospect, it's easy to say bobbing basalt, boulder roller, and handy hazards were a good time, but in the moment, I was struggling. I more so remember these levels fondly because of the unique ways to interact with and break the game. Playing a level blind was not on my bingo card, and that's both a cool and annoying surprise. Levels like Red Red Rising, though, are nothing but frustrating. To see the potential, but not be able to execute, is so tragic every single time. I like the reversal idea, but it's clear the concept needs some help to be functional in a lot of cases. I hope, at least, this video showcased the potential of the concept, and with calculated consideration, it can shine more brightly. Perhaps, too, the earlier DK games have less one-way sections. But good luck getting me to try this again. I know it's rose-tinted glasses, but Minimum Bananas seems like a cakewalk in comparison. Maybe we revisit that instead of GNOK. You let me know. Anyway, if you do want to try this yourself, for some reason, Clingy Swingy is easily the best one, and any of the full GNOK levels are pretty good. That said, I am going to do everything in my power to get out a video less than 30 minutes, please! This was supposed to be a quick, simple challenge, and what, it turns into a freaking Squidicus. I tell you what, I am an irate 8 about now. It always turns into something ridiculous, don't it? Oh yeah, the beads Kirby drops is randomly generated. How about that?